Welcome. I'm Nora. I'm the founder of EBLI, and I wanted to share a little bit about my story. I've shared in the blog, basically the nuts and bolts of the atypical journey to where I am now with EBLI and teacher training and student instruction and all of that. So in this video, I wanted to kind of share some of the more heartfelt information that's more challenging to convey if I try to write it on paper. So the first thing is that my passion for literacy, as far as for teaching kids and adults and for teaching and training teachers, comes from a deeply personal place. My own child was a struggling reader, and because of that, it led me to figuring out what to do to help her, and then this really deep burning passion to help others like her, which I realized led to teachers who were also suffering, that needed instruction that was going to work well and work fast and work with all of their children and not just some of their children. So that deeply personal place has stayed with me all of these years since since Colleen was 7 years old and now she's past 30. But that drives so much of what I do and why I do it, for sure, and even how I do it. So that's the first thing. And the other thing is that this entire journey of mine has not been planned. I didn't plan to teach Colleen how to read. I didn't plan to open a reading center. I didn't plan to create a system to train teachers. It was all, I suppose you could call it fate or serendipity or divine intervention. I use that a lot. But whatever, it was not my plan. Well, somebody's plan, apparently, but not my plan. And it has continuously evolved in spite of me, I should say. I've actually tried to hide from it and thinking, I'm a nurse. I was perfectly happy being a neonatal intensive care nurse and never had any desire to have a business or I liked to, I substitute taught for a few years when we lived in Cuba, but, teaching was not, formally teaching wasn't something that I'd ever really thought of either. So this kind of just evolved and had a life of its own. And now it is, it's just ingrained in every single cell of my body, where teaching kids and adults to read and training teachers isn't just a passion, but it's a mission. It's just this really deep, intense desire to help everyone learn to read to their highest potential and help every teacher or homeschooler or educator of any sort have the tools and the skills and the concepts and the information and everything that they need to be able to do that in a way that's really, really effective and really, truly efficient. So I look at, having not come up through the formal education system, into teaching, so many things don't make sense. Like there's this thing called the reading wars. And if you haven't heard of it, maybe Google it, because it's gone on for decades and decades and decades, where there's so much infighting that tends to be more about power and politics and ego and money, and very little about the highest and best good of teachers or of students. And so we end up having a tremendously large percentage of our population, both children and adults, who have low levels of literacy, who are subliterate. They may be able to read, but not nearly as well as they could had they been taught in a way that works really well for them, and had their teachers been taught in a way so that they could teach them. So there's so much that is limiting and so much suffering in all of this. And for whatever reason, sometimes I wonder about that. Sometimes it seems like a blessing, and other times, quite honestly, it seems like a curse. I have been given this information, I call it, as far as what EBLI is, this system, to be able to really help alleviate a lot of that suffering. There's so many things that I don't know. about how to go about doing that. I know that I could teach anyone as long as they can talk. I could teach them to read. And I know that I could teach teachers how to teach reading. But what I can't do is I can't get kids to stop guessing the words and start reading them. I mean, I can get them to do that, but it takes a little bit more time. Or I can't be with them all the time when they're reading and really encourage them to use the skills and strategies that we teach to them. And the same with teachers. I can train them and know and give them this recipe that is going to result in all of their kids reaching their highest potential. But teachers are given so much, and they've been conditioned to think that more is better instead of better is better. And so they look at EBLI instead of, if I do this instruction, I will do this, and it will move these kids, and it'll also free up a whole lot of time. But they think more, and again, because they've been conditioned and taught this way, that we'll do EBLI and we'll do this thing and that thing and this program and that and this, all these other things on top that actually, just like kids with guessing or looking at the picture and that type of thing, it dilutes the effectiveness of what they're doing. So I don't know the answers on how to rectify that. I don't know if there are any answers, but I do know that I have this deep burning passion to do all that I can for everybody who is interested in learning that, and interested in being supported in that, and interested in helping their children or adults that they're teaching, and also the ones that we're teaching, to get to where they can be. Because being subliterate, all right, even if you have a PhD, I've taught doctors and lawyers and multimillionaire businessmen, as well as people who couldn't read a word at all, and all of them have what my dear friend John Corcoran calls a hole in their soul. They're shameful. They feel ashamed. They feel embarrassed, because kids who struggle with reading or who are not reading to their potential grow to be adults who are struggling with reading or not reading and spelling and writing to their potential. So really alleviating that suffering and doing as much as I can in my lifetime to do that, that's really my story. That's really what I hope to do. And we do it very unconventionally, very revolutionary, like in a lot of ways. Our instruction is revolutionary, always learning more every single day on how to teach better, how to train better, how to, do everything better. And always asking the question, if we're not making progress, whether it's in a learner's not making progress or a teacher is struggling with something, the question that I always ask, and I really recommend that people steal this too, is what do I need to do differently? So what more do I need to learn? What do I need to refine? What do I need to do differently? Because it's truly worth it to do this, to be on this mission and have this collective group of people that keeps growing and growing, which is exciting, to do all that we can to move that literacy needle forward. So that's really my story. Where I'm at now, all these years later, is to, really, I guess it is to teach the world to read. And I'm not kidding about that, even though I know it does sound fairly lofty. I do get that. So I appreciate you listening or watching, and your passion for literacy, and for letting me tell you my story.